life for the positive, and I just want to thank you. I was 29-year-old beta, living at home with my mom, and just was living in fear and doubt, and I couldn't hold down a job. And then I found you, and I started listening. I started just being more at peace, and I forgave my mom, and I forgave my father. And it's like right after that, everything just changed in my life, and I was able to get a good job, and I moved out, and I live on my own now, and everything has just changed. And I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate you for spreading that message. It really is a positive message.
Amazing. That's good, man. I want people to know God loves us in ways that there are no words to express, because you have nothing to compare it to, right? Stay with the silent prayer. You haven't seen anything yet. It gets better. Check out Punchy's Coffee. I have my own coffee now. Punchy Coffee is good. Every bag is roasted to order. Freshest flavor. Top quality. Specialty grade beans. Good. Every dime goes back to Bar, my nonprofit. And we are rebuilding the family by rebuilding the man. So when you're drinking coffee and enjoying it, just know you're helping somebody. Amazing coffee. Punchy has his own coffee now. What the? And it's so good. All the way from the plantation to my own coffee. Who would have thought? Did that coffee come from the plantation? Did I pick my own coffee? Check it out. Go to rebuildingtheman.com, rebuildingtheman.com/stores, and get Punchy's Coffee. Isn't Nick a Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby. You know, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border, and then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on American soil. So he became the anchor baby. You don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right?
Hello, I'm the American Anchor Baby, and this is my show. Thanks for tuning in, folks. On this fine Tuesday, we got a bit of a show for you. And it's a pleasure to be back here. I quickly changed my shirt 2 seconds before I started. If I'm out of breath, I got up and I'm like, wait, no, that's not the shirt I want to wear. All right, we're here. How you doing, folks? Pleasure to have you here on this fine Tuesday. Got a bit of a show for you today. We're going to be getting into it. People are mad about everything, okay? And I do want to get into the news and politics, but I just have to say something. But we'll get into it, okay? Maybe the failures of how do I put this? Look, the country's not coming back, and it's not such a black pill. Okay, I actually have I think a good message for you here, huh? The Anchor Baby maybe has a little message, so we'll get into that. Look, it's not interesting stuff. People turning on each other. I think you'll find this interesting, or maybe only I found it interesting. We got to spend some time on MAGA Granny. You heard of her? And the men. What's wrong with the men? Big controversial conversation. They're asking, what is wrong with the men? Why won't they man up? Why won't they man up? And I'm thinking they got it wrong, okay? They just got something wrong here, and we'll get into it, okay? Tommy Lahren, you remember her? Remember our girl, Tommy Lahren? Look, a number of things to get into today. You could call in 888-775-3773 to jump on the air, get something off your chest, something on your mind here. Besides that, welcome to the show. Don't be rude, okay? Look, you forgave your mother. You're like, okay, I've been listening to Jesse. I forgave my mom, but she's taught you some manners, right? She taught you something, okay? She called it love. She called it love. She was mistaken. That's fine. You forgave her for that. No reason to be rude. No reason to show your lack of decorum, okay? Come on in. Press the like button. Click the like button. Don't be rude. Say hello in the chat, okay? Leave a comment. Do something, okay? I mean, we see you just sitting there. Like, it's like, this guy's not even saying hello to anybody. We're all looking at you like this guy has no decorum. Or female, the ladies, they have no decorum as well. Okay, what else here? Welcome to the show, 888-775-3773. What can I say? Welcome. Something I'm missing here. Is there something I'm missing here? Look, we'll get to it if I remember. Must have not been that important. Smash the like button. Thank you, Harmony. We got number 1, number 2, and number 3. You guys are fighting for the XP in the chat, clamoring for your crowns. Let me say hello to the people on rumble.com/American Anchor Baby, dlive.tv/Gorgonzola, and of course, punchy.tv/Anchor Baby. Don't be rude. Make an account. Do something. Seesaw gets it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the chat. What can I say? I got stuff to get into. Shall we jump in? I'm feeling a little loosey. I'm feeling a little goosey. So whatever. Let's jump into it. A little news and politics. So let's begin. Let's go back to 2016. That's not very, going back here for a moment there. Going back to 2016, I feel like it's the only way I can really talk about the news right now for some reason. I got to get this off my back in that it's like I can't even get into the news without getting this off my chest or whatever. It's not even that deep, but go back to 2016 for a moment with me where I was in Canada. He's an Anchor Baby from Canada. I see Trump run for president. And it's interesting. It's amazing. At first I didn't even care. I didn't even quite understand. I just saw everybody around me suddenly speaking and talking and caring about these things they never cared about before. And it's a big deal. It's a major deal. So anyways, we all saw him. Trump for president. I start waking up to this story. A narrative, if you will. I don't know. Is that a communist buzzword? Narrative. Oh, it's a narrative. That's just a narrative. I don't know how the world uses that word. The way I'm using it is my idea of what's happening in the world, which may align with what's really happening, but it remains, those two remain, there's still space between those two. But for any matter, a story started forming of America, the story of America, stuff happening recently, before, etc. And, the story makes sense to me. Essentially, what? America is hated. America is hated. America is actually, the land of the free is actually corrupt, being stolen from, being scammed. And in many ways, this story is something that people have known for a long time. Decades, maybe even multiple generations. But, like I said, that's just my story. The Anchor Baby sees this. I see Trump telling this story, and it's, you know, I see him telling this story, and then what can I say without having to hash all the details I'm thinking of, etc. Let's try and move a little faster. I'll always see Trump as a legend for that, right? He's standing up to this scam that, like I said, many have known for a while. They just kind of saw Trump and woke up to it. Maybe they saw Trump and said, wow, finally, this is what we've been saying. And so he'll always be a legend, right? Standing up to that, in my mind. And you know what? There's criticisms to be had, and I've been listening to them. I've been watching the news for like 10 years, paying attention to Trump, paying attention to stuff. And you know what? Some criticize Trump and what's happening, what's not being done and not being transformed in America. They put it on him, for a number of reasons. You know, they'll say he meant well, but he's just unable to do it. And for whatever reason, a personality flaw, a skill flaw, whatever it may be, they'll criticize him for those things. You know, so at times it's like, whatever. I'm not even being specific here, so it's not important. But to me, some of those criticisms that I'm not even mentioning, whatever, you're allowed to have them. They make sense sometimes. But that's how some people see it. It's at the fault of some lack of his character, some lack. Or they'll take it further. They'll say that Trump's presidency is, in fact, a scam from the get-go. Okay? And look, you could look at everything that's happening on the country, and you could say, well, you could criticize, say all you want. I just can't turn on him, right? I can even say that some things aren't being transformed by Trump for a number of reasons. We'll get into it. But I just can't do this whole thing because you would have to convince me. You'd have to convince me that he meant for all this corruption, all this mess. It seems to me like he's, you know, really attempting to stand up to it. So he'll always be like a legend in my mind for that. The years have gone by. What can I say? Looking at the country, looking at the politics and the news. Let me speak on the news a little bit. I can't move on until I tell you, I mean, looking at it from a bird's eye view, I mean, the country ain't coming back. It's not coming. I'm not even black-pilled or feeling bad about this. It's not me telling you to feel sad or doomed about it. I'm just trying to be as accurate as I can with the news I'm reporting, right? And these main things, you know, immigration and the economy and a number of things. Trump is, in my mind, will always be that legend, right? He's literally like, you know what? I'm going to be the guy who's going to say no. We got to do it a different way. But what is this different way? What is he coming up against? It's a huge beast. And this beast is like deeper than the deep state and the government, which has its problems. We'll get into that. You have to confront the very people of the country. It's the strangest thing. So, you know, you could call me, by the way. You have criticisms. I'm not saying you can't criticize the man. Allow me to just speak freely. You can call me, 888-775-3773, but just consider for a moment a couple of things, like the economy. Consider for a moment, well, let's start it off with this, because this is how I have it set up on my packet. Because what even spawned this? I mean, I'm looking at the CNN. I'm looking at this article. Trump privately complains about Amy Coney Barrett and other Supreme Court justices he nominated. And, you know, it's a somewhat interesting article. I mean, whatever. Let me just, I guess, read some of it. Donald Trump has privately complained that the Supreme Court justices he appointed have not sufficiently stood behind his agenda, according to multiple sources familiar with the conversations. He's directed particular ire at Justice Amy Coney Barrett, his most recent appointee. The closed doors grievances have been wide-ranging. Many have been about Barrett. Trump has expressed frustration about Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh. And it's not over just one ruling, according to these sources. And in a statement, now these were just these sources that heard this. In a statement, Principal Deputy Press Secretary Harrison Fields said, President Trump will always stand with the U.S. Supreme Court, unlike the Democratic Party, which, if given the opportunity, would pack the court, ultimately undermining its integrity. I mean, you know, these are just like these public comments to assuage any fears and any attacks coming from the media that are obviously going to use this as a look at this guy who hates the rule of law yet again, wanting to go above the rule of law and democracy of our country, when all he is just saying, hey, you know, this woman, you know, she's not really the person she presented herself to be. That's what he says. That's what allegedly he said here. Interview. Hold on, let me find it. Yeah, the president's anger, sources said, has been fueled by allies on the right who have told Trump privately that Barrett is weak and that her rulings have not been in line with how she presented herself in an interview before Trump. And so I'm just reading this right a little bit, and I mean a number of things you gather already. The vast number of enemies in every section of the government that Trump has. We've kind of known this, right? We've been knowing this. You know, I'm looking at this, if I may. How do I put that? I mean, Trump just can't see certain things, I think. He can't see certain things like anybody, right? That's how the world is. That's how people are, okay? Because why am I saying this? Because Amy Coney Barrett, I suspected it, if I may be honest about what I really was thinking. I was just a little baby watching the news at that time, okay? I was just a little tiny anchor baby without any formed thoughts of the world, okay? You got to understand. But even then, I knew that she was a problem, okay? And everybody besides me knew she was not a good pick from the get, right? Besides being a woman, right? Just you think that's a silly comment, like, oh, yeah, okay, fine. Even the Bible says it. I may even be a Christian, Nick, and I believe in the order, but prove it. Prove that Amy Coney Barrett is gonna be emotional just because she's a woman. You know, this is coming from Trump. Where was it? You know, these concerns about her rulings. They're concerned that public negative attention may have here it is. Some of Trump's allies have privately expressed the view that Barrett's rulings might have been shaped by menacing behavior and threats of violence directed at her family. Did you know this? In March, her sister was targeted with a bomb threat at her home in Charleston, South Carolina. Trump has asked advisors and allies if they think Barrett needs more security, asking if that might make her more comfortable. So, that's just a point there about what people were saying about being a female. I mean, besides that, remember, she has those adopted kids. I forget from where. But she has like adopted children from Haiti or something. Amy Coney. You might think, well, what's the big deal? It just says a lot about her. Remember, she had these adopted children from Haiti, and then her commentary about George Floyd and how she had to have this emotional moment with her black adopted child. Like, you think that's really who you want in the Supreme Court? Like, I'm just saying. So, where was I? Right, just talking a little bit about personnel. Maybe even giving something to those who say there's a failure in his ability to see certain things in personnel. What am I saying here? I mean, I'm just giving you evidence that it's not coming back, if I may. It's not a black pill. I'm just telling you. The news, I mean, consider for a moment the money, economy. I mentioned a moment ago, this beast that seemingly Trump has to go up against, and it's more than the deep state, it's people. Check this out. Doge. Now, you're familiar with Doge. Department of Government Efficiency. The whole thing was to come in and fix the government, fix all this spending, okay? The spending is out of control. U.S. federal spending. Let me tell you the main things that are spent on. The U.S. federal government spends the most on the following major categories. Social Security, around $1.4 trillion. Health programs, this is Medicare, Medicaid, Affordable Care Act subsidies, $1.6 trillion combined. Defense and military spending, about $850 billion. The interest, this actually is more than military spending, at least according to this. Interest, the mere interest on the national debt. The interest on the national debt, about $900 billion. So that's just paying your creditors. That's just paying your creditors, the interest of your debt. Major problem. So income security and safety net programs. So supplemental security income, SSI, unemployment insurance, food stamps, and child tax credits. So those are like these major things that are being spent on. Now, do you understand the problem at hand? When you have a country, right, you have this debt where the mere interest alone is this major chunk of your spending, getting almost into the trillion. You realize, well, number one, that obvious issue of what's seemingly like a financial crisis. Can this go on forever? Like, what happens here, right? Will the inflation and interest just go forever? Does it? What happens here? You know, pretty much you ask anybody and it's not good. But it's more, but when you have a debt that's like what, 40 trillion, you're looking at this beast, and you're like, yeah, we got to deal with that later. You know, that's what politicians do. Wow, that's something we got to deal with. That's major. I mean, you do that with your life, don't you? Wow, look at this huge thing. Oh, it's causing me pain just looking at it. We got to deal with that later. So you understand the problem here? Now, let me express this. Let me explain further. I just told you the major things you got to spend on, right? There's this big, beautiful bill, and I don't know the details. I've been meaning to educate myself on the details of, Trump's big, beautiful bill. I'll tell you about that soon, hopefully. In it, there is some sort of attempt, and I don't have the details, but people are mad about this, what seems to be an attempt, which I have to assume is a paltry attempt at going after Medicaid, okay? That's kind of what's getting people mad right now. In the big, beautiful bill, there's something about, and you know what, I might even have a little bit more details for you here about what the Trump administration wants to do with Medicaid, and it's basically cut it a bit. Okay, I can at least tell you that much. What happens the moment this is even barely talked about? It's a refrain from the public saying, no, you can't take this away. What, you want people dead? You want people to die? Very shallow thinking. Like, it's very shallow. How do you get past that? Like it's just very shallow. Don't you see that? You're up against the very people in your country. You have like I just expressed this, the interest on the debt alone is bigger than one of the biggest expenditures. And if you're telling me this, you got to understand this. So Medicare, Medicaid, income security, safety net programs, health programs. You're telling me all that is on the backs of a system that's about to implode. And then the moment you actually have a real plan, or at least a semblance of a real plan that wants to get at the real things that are actually expensive, you get the public going crazy. You understand? So that's what has to be overcome in a sense. Just allow me to just show you, but maybe just let me show you. Maybe you're not even listening anymore. Let me show you. Bono. Anybody know this guy? I remember hearing about him. I know Bono a little bit. U2. I remember when Apple forced like their album or something on my phone. It was something like some album U2 put out, and it was like a free album that Apple like forced on everyone's phones. And I never listened to it. I'm like, I will not listen to it. So I don't know if that was a good business move. YouTube, but anyways, Bono, what is he, English? Bono, Irish singer-songwriter, activist. I'm sure many of you have known his activism for some time. So he made some claim on Joe Rogan, okay? I want you to let's just watch it real quick. Might as well. Watch this clip. Bono, YouTube singer guy, money, he's got money. He's on Joe Rogan, and he's not happy about cutting this. They're cutting the stuffs, okay? You can't cut it. You can't cut it. You're going to kill people. This is his claim.
Recent report. It's not proven, but the surveillance enough suggests 300,000 people have already died from just this cut off, this hard cut of USAID. So there's food rotting in boats, in warehouses. There is this will fuck you off. This will not. You will not be happy. No American will. But
was that his accent, or did he just swear? I don't even know.
There is, I think it's 50,000 tons of food that are stored in Djibouti, South Africa, Dubai, and wait for it, Houston, Texas.
What?
And that is rotting rather than going to Gaza, rather than going to Sudan, because the people who know the codes or for the warehouse are fired. They're gone. And
Trump!
So this, I don't know, what do you think? What is that? That's not America, is it?
That's not Trump.
Well, they're throwing...
Okay, and I'm just going to move on faster because Joe Rogan gives him a little response. I forget it. The point is, look, to summarize, he kind of tells him, look, it's a scam. But if I remember, he kind of also hem and haws a little bit, like, okay, maybe you're kind of right, but it's a scam, bro. It's a scam. And Elon Musk said if this was done by any other public company, it would be delisted and the executives would be in prison. But so nice, Rogan, nice. Good work there. Responding to Bono. I got to say, about this conversation, and I already knew people would, and I'm seeing, for example, here in the comments. Here's what people are all trying to debunk, and they're criticizing and debating Bono on. It's this 300,000 number. Like, okay, prove the number. Like, that's not, you're making that up. That's not even a true number, and it's just this endless arguing over the validity of this guy's claims on how many have died. It's like, no, bro, like, no, not all those people died. Stop it. But let's not even do that. Let's not even do that. I don't care about the validity of the 300,000 dead, whether that's true or not. He's just throwing that out there. I'd have to, right? I'm skeptical, but put it like this. You'll end up arguing the wrong frame here because if you argue if that number is valid or not, what you're saying is, should you find any evidence of that number or if some fraction of that number, then you're saying that Trump and anyone supporting this is all or in part this much evil. You don't understand? But I want to say that Bono and these people who, clamor for the Medicaid, clamor for even at the with the signs that it's all going to collapse, clamor for it anyways. They'll look at another country and they'll think, and if they see some stat or says, if we don't give them this aid, this many will die. I look at that person as the barbarian. If a group of people or a populace can only be supported by these gives, these free stuff, then you're the barbarian. You're kind of a sick person because you're telling me that when you see a clamoring, hungry horde grabbing for free stuff, you look at that and you say, wow, that's such a good thing. That's charity. You know what's even funnier about that? Bono doesn't even have to look at that site. He doesn't have to look at that. He doesn't go, I don't know if he goes there personally. Let me just say that. But in this case, he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't even have to do what I just described and look at this site of people clamoring for free stuff that would die otherwise as like a good thing and charitable, like nice. Like, it's one thing to see someone in need and be like, wow, you need this need. But we're talking about a continual, They call it USAID, USAID, whatever. We're talking, and besides the fact that it's corrupt, right? Anybody in there is also, it's called skimming off the top, okay? Welcome to America. But that's not even good on its face, okay? Even as, it's not even a good intention, okay? If a populace can only be supported in this way, then what you're supporting with your money and with your giving is hell. You're supporting hell to continue. You're like, let me look at this horde of hell and let's add to it. Let's feed it. What is wrong with you? Don't you think, folks? So that's even, I'm just saying the argument over that. I'm like, no, don't even argue that. That's the wrong framework. You're assuming so many things. And it's why the country's not coming back. It's like Medicaid. Now, they got really mad at this woman for this. Her name is Joni Ernst, I believe. Joni Ernst. Joni, hell of a gal. I don't know if she's a hell of a gal like Nancy Mace, but she's 54 and is an Iowa senator. Wait. Is she? Well, hold on. What is she right now? Yeah, she's a senator. Republican Senator Joni K. Ernst, member of the Republican Party, Iowa. She is getting some negative attention. She's in hot water, as they're saying. Maybe she was a little snarky, maybe. You could maybe say she was a little snarky. But it has to do with a moment where a constituent, a voter, whatever, a heckler, some are calling this person, shouted to Joni Ernst. They're concerned. This person was allegedly concerned about the big, beautiful bill and the things that might be coming down against Medicaid. Joni Ernst replying to this, people are going to die refrain. She said, well, we're all going to die. And that is a big no-no. She's talking about people. You can't say that mean things about people and you're in the government with a mic. Don't you know you can't say that?
So people are not, well, we all are going to die.
Snarky, oh, got him. And you know what? Whatever, right? That was the moment. Apparently she may be apologizing. I'm not even that familiar with the incident itself, like what happened before. Maybe it was a fine thing to apologize. I don't know. Usually, I don't like apologizing to an evil crowd. They don't even care about what you're saying here.
Hello, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize for a statement that I made yesterday.
It's a true statement, though, no? I mean, it depends on who you ask, and it depends on what you're willing to believe and what you're open to, right? Maybe if you say we're all going to die, you're showing yourself to be kind of a closed-off person, right? They call it eternal life, Joni. But what did she say that was wrong? Right? She said we're all going to die. And anyways, whatever. Maybe it could have been handled better. But what am I getting at here? Why am I showing you this? Like, I guess to just to add to this point here, that's who you got to go up against, right? Because then, some of the criticisms are, well, where is this transformation of the country? And I don't see it either. But can you see even paltry attempts to do so? You have the masses, the retarded masses, looking for another thing to eat. Manja. The public wants to manja. Let's move on a little faster here. I want to move on. Yeah, you know what? That's it with all that. We'll come back to this MAGA granny, people turning and all that. We'll come back to this. I'm done with this segment for now. But, all this to say, I was looking upon the world, right? From my vantage. I don't know. Am I like the guardian of Earth in this scenario somehow? I don't know what it is. I'm floating and I'm looking at the world. And I'm thinking about some of the callers on the JLP show, my show, and all the things that people are into, all the like titles they're into and assumptions. And I'm like, wow, let's drop all those things. Don't you think, folks? We need to be overcoming all these previous assumptions, all your machinations and ideas and plans. You thought the world was a certain way. You thought politics was a certain way. You thought Republicans and Democrats were a certain way, and you thought you were being represented. You thought marriage was a certain way. You thought being a Christian was meant these things, this morality and framework you're trying to live up to, and you thought you have to operate within these frameworks. You know what? You don't. It's time to live your life, not for anyone else. What do you think about that? Don't live it for anyone else. Not for no woman. Not for a man. Not for a man. Not for some idea, some fight, some idea. Most of our ideas are wrong. So let's what am I? All I'm saying here now is just, don't you see everything we look at that is wrong? Everything we're looking at is like wrong. All of our assumptions, what we thought about it. Let's stop living for all those things. Okay. I'm not saying don't live for America. No, I'm not even America. Time to overcome America. It's like whatever. We live here. I know I'm saying the country is not coming back, but can't you see how you can live a interesting life, work on yourself, build up what you can, despite all that? Because you were wrong. You were wrong about your assumptions. What a beautiful thing. Let's drop those. And live. And live. Anyways, 888-775-3773. If anything, that's maybe a little bit of a segue. Living your life for others, living your life for other ideas, living your life for moralities and frameworks you thought were real or how you were supposed to live, but just someone told you that. Check this one out. Pope Leo, look, we got something coming down from the Pope. The new Pope, he's setting the record straight, okay? No longer are you heathens out there, okay? You guys are out there. You guys were out there gallivanting around, so happy because some years ago, the previous Pope, right? I forgot his name already. Pope Francis, the not MAGA. No, okay, let me just stop with that. You were gallivanting around, all happy, unmarried, cohabitating with your, I bet you call them your partner. And you're cohabitating with your partner, your SO, your significant other, and you thought to yourself, wow, thanks to Pope Francis and his words on cohabitation, I can gallivant around with a smile on my face, knowing that I have the grace of real marriage, even though I'm just cohabitating with my partner. You heard Pope Francis, you were out there gallivanting so happy. Sorry. Party's over. Sorry, heathens. Yeah, the party's over. Yeah.
There is breaking news today from Rome where Pope Leo XIV is correcting the Francis record on cohabitation. Pope Francis created worldwide scandal when on July 16, 2016, he said cohabitation is real marriage and has the grace of real marriage. Yeah, I know that's hard to believe, so we have it for you on video. Just watch for yourself.
Ma davvero, io ti dico, ho visto tanta fedeltà in queste convivenze.
I'm translating 2016 Pope's words here. The captions are right there. Yet really I say that I have seen a great deal of fidelity in these cohabiting couples. A great deal of fidelity.
Tanta fedeltà.
And I am certain that this is a true marriage.
Sicuro che questo è un matrimonio vero, hanno la grazia proprio del matrimonio per la fedeltà.
Precisely because of the fidelity they have. Fidelity, meaning you can hear them very well. Like you can, the quality of their audio is really nice. No, that's not what he means.
He didn't only say it once. On February 25th, 2017, he made similar remarks speaking to the Roman Rota, and one of his closest advisors, his most frequent interviewer, Jesuit priest Antonio Spadaro, tweeted out this photo of a couple going hand in hand to meet the Pope, and the caption on the photo, as you can see, contains the words of the Pope: "The welcoming of those young people who prefer to live together without getting married."
Scandalous? That was your Pope Francis, okay?
Imagine how confusing that is to young people. Well, today at the Vatican, Pope Leo XIV addressed the issue of cohabitation with these words, and I quote, "Perhaps many young people today who choose cohabitation instead of Christian marriage actually need someone who, in a concrete and understandable way, especially by example of their life, shows them what the gift of sacramental grace is and what strength it brings. Someone who helps them understand the beauty and the greatness of the vocation to love and to the service of life that God gives to spouses."
That's all we need. Wow. That's all we need. We just need someone to show us that. All right, Pope Leo, who's going to show us? I'll wait here patiently. I'm ready. Pope. Put me in, Coach. Someone just needs to show us the whatever he said, right? The beauty, instead they should choose a Christian marriage, and they need someone to tell them what that Christian marriage is in a concrete and understandable way, especially by the example of their life, which is nice, right? An example of your life, that's actually really nice, as opposed just showing an example of your life. That's beautiful. I actually love that, sincerely. But, that's all we needed. We needed someone to show us what the sacramental,
and what strength it brings.
Hold on.
Someone who helps them understand the beauty and the greatness of the vocation to love.
I can't click. What's going on here?
To the service of life.
I can't click.
That God gives
Why can't
to
I click?
spouses.
I can't pause this, folks. Literally, I'm clicking and I can't pause this.
In his apostolic exhortation,
Go away.
Familiaris Consortium.
I'm trying to do a show.
For the full story, go to LifeSite News and my blog for today.
This is so annoying. I don't know what that was, folks. You see I'm trying to click and it's not pausing, but I was able to override this. Let's see. Let's come back to the show. We just needed someone to show us, right? Show us the grace, the strength of a Christian marriage and all that. And so anyways, where was I? Where was I? So that's, you heard the new Pope, and he's correcting the heathens, okay? Correcting you heathens, that's enough out of you. Gallivanting. So, interesting comments from this new Pope. He's saying, that's how it is. But, if I may, and I had some calls come in, and, a number of calls. Call me back, 888-775-3773. I'll get right to you. I saw a number of you hang up. I must have been just talking and talking here. Allow me to talk a little bit further, and then we'll get to calls. 888-775-3773. Because let me be honest. How do I put this? Let me just say, this is my reaction in a sense. It's sincere. It's not out of necessarily doubt that it exists, this Christian marriage. It's just, like he said, we just need to be shown that Christian marriage and what it is, what it means in an understandable way. I'm waiting, right? An example in their lives. I'm waiting, right? I'd be happy to see it, because I could sit here and come at you and tell you what it is and all that, but I'd be lying. I'd be lying to you. I don't know. But so anyways, I'd be lying. I'd have to be honest and say, well, fine. You're right. We've yet to see this Christian marriage and all that. I'm with you, Pope. Show us. But this video and this whole conversation, it does bring up a number of things that is controversial to people. I mean, even in the comments of this video, Pope Leo talking about this marriage. I got to say, you know, when he's asking the world to avoid the cohabitation, right? He's telling them to, you know, to that young people that choose cohabitation, that instead they should choose a Christian marriage, he said. Instead, a Christian marriage. But where was I? I have to say, Pope Leo, do you know what you're asking people to do? You ask most people, for example, to describe. I mean, what was Pope Francis doing when he was saying cohabitation is this? You know, you get the same grace as marriage. I see the fidelity of these cohabitators, and that's a marriage to me, he says. What's he doing there? He's wrestling with that's the church, in a sense, wrestling with modern marriage, modern love, modern couples, if I could be a little more clinical. But what's the difference between them? Really, what's the difference between these people who are cohabiting, these people married, and people unmarried? Like, what is the difference? For real. I'm not asking, again, this is not even like what's the difference? They're the same. I'm asking in that maybe there's a difference. I'd like it described to me. Because he asked most people to describe love and marriage, and it's like a feeling. It's also like a vague responsibility or duty, right? You are exclusive, so no, not those people. There are certain actions and things you're not supposed to be. There's certain behaviors and things that are just kind of like not acceptable because you're in a relationship or you're married, right? And that makes sense. I'm not saying they don't make sense. In many cases they do. Sometimes they don't. I'm just describing what this love is for most people. No, am I wrong? This feeling and a vague responsibility, duty. When you put it like that, can you really say? Can you look upon? Can you look upon, let's say, a homosexual couple that is in an area where they would be? This is strange because I can't even think of a single place in America like this. But imagine a homosexual couple, unrequited love that would not be allowed, right? Should they show it, they would be stoned or something. Those people love each other more than under that framework of love, when you ask your average person. This couple that in this hypothetical, loves each other more than your average person. Tell me where I'm wrong. So I was just pondering this a little bit. Right? He's the Catholic Church head guy, right? Some say he's speaking for God. And I thought to myself, what does God actually say about marriage in the Bible? Now, we're not going to go through it like that, like as if I know everything he said about it. But I do over time, I've gathered this impression of marriage in the Bible. And it's mostly I know that marriage is spoken about in the Bible. In fact, it's even ordained by God in the Bible, right? Marriage is even ordained by God. I think he even says he hates divorce in the Bible. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife. They shall become one flesh. There's no marriage word there. Malachi, that's in Genesis. Malachi, the Lord was witness between you and the wife of your youth. She is your companion and your wife by covenant, for I hate divorce, says the Lord. Ephesians, the mystery is profound, and I am saying that it refers to Christ and the church, marriage as a picture of Christ and the church. So it's talked about in the Bible, but only a few instances is it in the Bible as something God said, right? And that he decreed, ordained. I can only find this instance where he says, apparently God said, I hate divorce, says the Lord. That's kind of the only. There might be more. Again, I'm not that studied, but I can't find many instances, very few instances where it's like God and what he thinks and what he feels and thinks or whatever about marriage. The vast majority of instances in the Bible where marriage is talked about, it's merely a practical thing. It's merely an institution that people are using. I don't know how else to put it. And so that's just my impression. You know, honestly, that's my impression. When I read those words in Malachi, for example, isn't that the Old Testament? Malachi? How old is this testament? I don't know, but it's somewhere in the Old Testament. I read this and it says, I hate divorce. You know, she is your companion, your wife by covenant. I get this impression of really the word, all of the word and people really, as this gift from God that gets diluted over time. You know, this, because consider for a moment that by the time the Bible is around, marriage is already well, I don't know if it's fair to call it confusing, but it's not this definite thing. You know, by the time of the Bible, you already have Jacob working 7 years to marry one woman, but is tricked into marrying another, right? Leah, a story of Jacob and Leah and Rachel. He then works another 7 years to marry this Rachel. I mean, those are contracts, family dynamics, nothing about love, nothing about the love that we talk about, right? Romance. Abraham sends his servant to find a wife for Isaac amongst his relatives. Well, I don't know, whatever. Negotiations, gifts, and agreements. That's how I see these marriages, right? If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed, this is Deuteronomy, and seizes her and lies with her, he shall give her the father 50. He shall give her father. I don't know what this is. I can't read this for some reason. He shall give the father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife. Yeah, that's contracts. I don't see love. I don't see God there giving this person this, right? So by the time, which is a long time ago, right? By the time, it seems to me that marriage is being written about in this Bible, it's practical, okay? And possibly, and there's an implication that at some point God ordained and gave us something here that's been diluted over time. That's kind of like my mental conspiracy about the scriptures. So what was I saying? I'm not saying much. I mean, I'm just showing you that Pope Leo controversy, letting you smoke on it. You could call me, tell me what you think. Is cohabitation marriage? You know, I think to myself, this Pope is asking people to enter something that doesn't even exist, something that barely exists. When you're saying a Christian marriage, when this person says a Christian marriage, I mean, we can only gather as much as we can, right? From history or whatever. But you can gather a couple of basic things like, well, okay, hold on. Actually, I'm about to get out of my purview here. I don't have any scripture to back this up or anything, but I mean, it's in there, right? The order, man over woman, woman over children, you know? And the vast majority, I mean, I don't even know what exactly. I discover that and see constantly in my daily life how little I know, how the things I say, there's still more to discover. So that's me, right? That's most people around me. Then we'll get to calls here. Appreciate you holding 888-775-3773. Just remarking on this marriage thing, right? He's calling it a Christian marriage, and I'm saying it doesn't exist. I don't really see it. Most people don't. You're asking people to enter something that's not even in existence. So where was I? And I'll give you some evidence. I'll give you some evidence and thoughts on this, and you'll tell me what you think in a moment here. I just want to get to some calls, because this is a long, controversial conversation. But we'll leave it at there for now with Pope Leo on cohabitation. What are your thoughts? Is he bringing back marriage? Is he doing it? Is he making it happen? Yes. What are your thoughts on Pope Francis's commentary on cohabitation and fidelity? I'll let you smoke on that. We'll come back to it. But right now we got Mark. Appreciate your call, Mark. Los Angeles, California. You're on the air.
How you doing, Nick?
All is well, sir. How you doing?
Good. Very well, very well.
Nice.
Wanted to call to ask you if you happened to catch the Harvard segregated graduation ceremony last weekend? Did you see that on the news?
No, I didn't.
Well, it was for black females who were getting their doctorate degrees, and it was at the at the ceremony at Harvard. I mean, after they received their degrees, they just went into full Watusi mode. I mean, they were gyrating and dancing around like monkeys in the zoo. And these are college that had just got their doctorates. What I'm getting at is I think you might agree that the standards at an so-called elite school like Harvard have really gone down. First of all, why were they allowed to have a segregated ceremony? Okay, we could start there. Secondly, are they DEI graduates? Are there going to be multiple lawsuits for malpractice for these so-called doctors? Jobs like being doctors,
right?
Or air traffic controllers. That takes a certain mentality, and they haven't been able to meet their DEI quotas on those type of jobs. So it's my belief that the standards have been lowered to allow these people in, both doctors, air traffic controllers, and you're seeing all the problems that we're having. So,
totally.
Yeah, I mean, did you see the graduates?
I'm trying to find footage of this. This sounds like incredible footage, the exact kind of footage that the sick masses that are my viewers would love to manja on. But
I saw it on the internet. It was all over the place.
So it was just totally. So they had a segregated graduation, and they were twerking and dancing. Because I saw this one video, and I just wanted to know if I saw what you saw. And it was this man handing over a diploma or something to a young black lady, a young black woman, and she starts twerking and dancing as soon as she received it. And this person giving her this diploma started dancing with her. And so I was just trying to find out if that's the one you saw.
Well, the one that I saw was specifically Harvard.
Anyways,
but I understand that they've been acting up at all the graduations around the country this year. I mean, this is graduation season. So,
this is
but
such
I think
an
it's
interesting
a reflection of our rotting culture.
And it's worse than that. It's such an interesting one because when you look at the country, you think to yourself, wow, people just don't know, right? People just don't. If we could only just educate them, hey, let's show them the stats that these people are being let in at with lowered standards. No, this is one of those stories that shows how crazy people are. You have people who are graduating from medical school, okay, with grills. They have like rapper grills on in their graduation photos. I saw this one viral post of this guy who was going viral on TikTok, showing off his diploma, saying, "Wow, I'm so glad I got to graduate. I didn't think I was going to graduate because," and then he shows this laundry list of reasons why he shouldn't have graduated. He has like terrible grades, terrible attendance, all this stuff, and yet he was put through. You got to sit here and wonder, when you have a doctor, when you have a professional you're going to pay for, and it comes to something so sensitive like your body, we're at that point, honestly. I don't want a black doctor. I don't want I'm going to choose a different one. And you could call me racist, you could call these things, but how can I trust? You're telling me to trust my body. You're telling me to trust these people when they openly say,
black
right. And they openly say, I got put through because even though I shouldn't have been put through.
Yes. So it's lowering the standards for the whole country. It's putting us all at risk.
Yeah.
At risk. And another issue, it's in a slightly different, basically the same issue of race, but in a different way. I fear for elderly whites who are forced to go into nursing homes, because most of the workers there are low-educated, low-paid minorities, a lot of whom have it in for whites. And they figure, well, these are the older whites, and they were probably more racist. So I think there's a lot of abuse and a lot of evil going on in those nursing homes. I could speak from personal experience. But getting back to the whole idea of DEI, it's just like if we don't give them these bogus degrees and unearned credits, what would they do with their lives? would they all work at McDonald's? You know, that was the argument many, many years ago when affirmative action started. Now it's DEI, but it's the same thing. And for the record, DEI, or affirmative action, I should say, started under LBJ, Lyndon Johnson, in 1965. So this plague has been around for 60 years. But the argument back then...
Yeah, what was the argument back then? Say that again.
...was that, look, if we don't pass these people through, they're all going to either be in jail or they're going to have minimal jobs that don't pay anything, and they'll be forever in poverty.
That was the thinking,
So it was a matter of what are we going to do with, 20 million Negroes? Are we going to just,
So
let them...
what was happening before that?
Well, they were, low paid. They had garbage man jobs. They had other jobs. I mean, blacks weren't artificially promoted back before the 60s to jobs that they weren't qualified for. Okay, they had jobs. Obviously, they survived. But their mentality was, I'll take what I can get. And that was my mentality as a white man. I mean, I was always grateful for any job.
That seems like a fine mentality to me. Yeah, that's how I was. I'll take. I just went out there and got what I could get.
For example,
and now look at me, Mama. No, I'm just
right.
I'm just joking.
But consider this, Nick. You got a city that's 50% black, 50% white. They need cops. They give a test. They need 100 cops.
Right.
500 people apply. 200 are black. 300 are white. No blacks can pass the test. Meaning that you're going to have a 50% black city with a 100% white police department. Even though the whites were more qualified to get those jobs, the fact that it looks bad is enough for the white liberals to say we have to cheat to get more black officers. That's basically
so
what affirmative action and DEI is in a nutshell.
I don't know if I really knew that. I don't know if I really knew that, because that's an interesting thing. You're saying that was really the whole point. I mean, I always kind of had this knowledge and impression that affirmative action, DEI, it's all about reparative justice, repairing the sins of the past, right? They're unable to now because of what happened yesterday, so let's do something about it now. But you're telling me that the whole, at its beginning, at its inception, the thinking was, if we don't do this, they will go into poverty and crime. Wow, it seems to have not worked.
Well, what it was, here's how it went from what I could put it together in my lifetime. When the Civil Rights Bill passed in '64, it was supposed to make us all equal. You couldn't legally discriminate against Negroes anymore. Okay, so that was that. What happened, though, between '64 and the later '60s was the black people couldn't pass the test. Even though they couldn't be discriminated against, they couldn't say, no, we're not going to even allow you to test. They allowed them to participate, and they couldn't make it. You still had situations where you had, say, like my example, 50% black city, but 100% white police, because the black cops couldn't, or the black recruits couldn't pass the test. So what they did, when they saw that the Civil Rights Bill was a failure, they came up with affirmative action.
Of course.
To force companies and police departments to lower their standards to hire these people.
Of course.
Okay, so it was in violation of the Civil Rights Bill.
Of course.
Civil Rights said no discrimination. But when the black people couldn't cut it, make the grade and get the jobs, they had to be boosted up artificially.
They had to go against their own basis of civil rights, and then somehow justify this whole thing with mental gymnastics. It's crazy. I want to drive this home because it's fascinating what you're bringing up, because that's the story. The story is that this is to help. The story is all of this is to help, right? So that they may be better, so that they may improve and live that life they're supposed to live. This was the thinking back then. Here we are today. We have it all played out, the evidence, the stats, we have the conclusion. Here we are today. We have the conclusion. It did not work. It didn't work. What ended up is you have people, you still have the same failures of the societies. And then you have people who are in places where they shouldn't be, like in an operating room.
Correct. Or air traffic controllers.
But I want to drive this home, because the thinking was, let's do this so that it can help. It will improve and help. It didn't help. So I would like to hear those. I would like to hear what is the response then after these? Now that we have the conclusion, the stats are in. It did not work. What do those people have to say for themselves? Are they going to move the goalposts and say, "Oh, we still need to provide for whatever? I would like to hear the reason why, or will they say?
Well, they would probably say that on the tester bias, the reason they weren't able to make the grade because the tests are culturally biased. Not true, of course, but this is a good argument that they use, similar to the argument they use in the IQ testing, because black people score 10 to 15 IQ points lower than whites. The Army has done these tests on recruits for like ever, and they have said consistently black people score 10 to 15 IQ points lower. So, I mean, it's evident.
Right, I mean, my point is like, right, go on.
No, I was going to say, we got a problem, and the liberal solution didn't work, with fake qualification, affirmative action. Those are unconstitutional failures.
I would
and
love to
actually, the whole society will pay the price. When
Fair
your
enough,
mom's or parents got to go to a nursing home, although that's not DEI connected, there's race hate involved. And it's revenge, basically. The whole thing about DEI and affirmative action is revenge on the white man for, in their minds, having discriminated against them. But the fact is, most white people never cared. They just wanted to go to work, bring home the money to feed their family. The black people, obviously, a lot of them wanted the same, but they couldn't make it. And it looked like discrimination, but it was their own failure to cut it. I mean, look at the big black cities, the cities that were once beautiful white cities. I could name them, but you know what I mean, who they are. Once ruled by whites where they were safe and beautiful places to live. Now look at our major cities after the black power political machine took over. Chicago, for example, not safe to go. Baltimore's a nightmare. Memphis, New Orleans, even Kansas City. These once great, proud cities have been destroyed by equality, if you want to put it that way, because the white people moved out, the black people took over in these cities, and now they're all decaying and rotting away. It's only a matter of time. I hate to say this, and I hope I'm wrong, but before the whole country goes down that route. We almost did with Barack Obama, but we had enough Republicans, that were able to keep him somewhat in check. But if we get a Democrat Senate, Democrat Congress, and this Supreme Court sucks, the one that we have now, even though they're supposed to be conservative, they're really not. And if we lose all those parts of government that could save us, and I'm a big government man, I'm not a small government conservative, because I think a pro-white, pro-Christian federal government would be a miracle. It was a pro-black, anti-Christian federal government that integrated the schools, enforced unconstitutional race-mixing laws all across America. The first activist ruling, in my knowledge, from the Supreme Court, was the Brown versus Board of Education. It federalized the schools and didn't allow for segregation. And look at the schools today. I mean, the schools are resegregated in the big cities, but they're terrible. Public schools are terrible. Before 1954, they were great. Everything that was integrated becomes bad.
I just never heard. I mean, honestly, what you just described, this relationship, the civil rights movement, and all that. I mean, I'm somewhat familiar, right? I've been listening to Jesse Lee Peterson. He's been laying that out, but I gotta say, I just never quite heard that affirmative action at its inception. People were thinking at the time, if we don't do this, blacks will, they won't have any upward mobility and remain and get worse and in poverty. It's an interesting one.
You have to remember, Nick, at that time in history, we were having major race riots. I think I mentioned it to Hake yesterday. From 1964 through to 67, when a lot of these bad laws were passed, a lot of the white majority were scared. Well, what are we going to do with 20 million Negroes? Either we're going to ship them out, which a lot of them wanted to do, but that didn't happen. Instead, they took the liberal route and passed all the civil rights and voting rights laws, and it didn't do any good. It's actually, race relations have gotten worse. So, the civil rights bill.
I got you. I got to move along here, Mark. Can I leave you with a question, more of a funny one?
Sure.
Here's a question for you. You have two options, two surgeons, two options. Jewish woman, Brazilian man.
Oh.
Who's operating on Mark?
Well, some Brazilians are white.
Well, no, I didn't get no more details other than that. And he's one of those he's a Brazilian.
They're brown-skinned people, right?
Yes.
Shit.
He swore.
I don't know, man.
He's
it
made him swear. Keep it clean, Mark.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I would have to think about that. I don't know. I can't give you an answer, but I got a quick question for you.
Hit me.
Would you rather vote for a black? Let's leave the race out of it. Would you rather vote for a liberal Democrat or a conservative woman that's a Republican? Say, for example, Marjorie Taylor Greene versus Bernie Sanders. Because I know you guys don't think women should lead, and I tend to agree with you. But in a scenario like that, are you going to let your male pride vote for Bernie Sanders?
It's not male pride, Mark. It's not male pride. I resent that. And that's not my male pride speaking right now. Or maybe it's my male pride speaking right now, but...
Sure.
Great question. I don't know. Marjorie's going to have to be my leader, I guess.
Yeah,
that's what
Marjorie's.
I mean. I guess Queen Marjorie. I'm swearing fealty to Marjorie. I guess I'm dying and fighting in the wars for Marjorie Taylor Greene. As much as I don't like that, I guess.
Well, I mean, it's her or Bernie Sanders.
I guess.
I mean, I think she would win. I would hope, but a lot of guys who are think along those lines and say no to women ever. I won't go that far. I tend to want to vote for a man, but he has to be a conservative person. I wouldn't vote for a liberal man.
I'll have to come back to that one.
Liberal woman.
Just like you'll have to come back to that one. You know what? I did say Marjorie, and I'll leave it at that, but it's tentative. I'll come back to that if I think
the next time we talk,
else.
I'll give you my answer on which doctor I take.
Okay, Mark, call me again.
All right. Thanks, Nick.
888-775-3773. It's just, I'd like to know, actually, now that he brings that up, that is a fascinating quandary. Not that, here's what's fascinating about it, is that now looking back, seeing the results of everything, I would love to hear what the pro civil rights people and pro everything that Mark said, I would love to hear, what is your estimation of what happened? What happened here? What went wrong? Did they just not enact the policies correctly? Did we just not do enough civil rights? What is your estimation of that? I'd like to know. Anyways, let's get to Maze out of Dayton, Ohio. How you doing, Maze? You're on the air.
Hello, Nick.
How you doing, Maze?
I'm okay.
Nice to hear.
Well, people don't like to talk about the past, but they love to talk about their founding fathers.
Tell them, Maze.
Don't they?
Expand.
You
said they don't like...
What the founding fathers did, they don't want to have a discussion on their founding fathers, and they can't be like them, and it's not going to happen the way it happened where people didn't have rights. Like when you're doing experiments on people, like the 50s and stuff, they were doing experiments and all of these different things, and nobody could do anything about it, or nobody cared to have anything done about it. And then Ben Carson, he was the best black doctor for the heart specialist, wasn't he? Or was it the brain?
Oh, he's a neurosurgeon, Ben Carson.
Where was he the best at what he was doing?
I don't know.
That's what they used to say. He was the best. I don't know
who's
doing
true?
Now that
they said that about Ben Carson?
Yes.
Nice.
So
I don't have any reason to not believe him.
What?
Besides affirmative action, but whatever.
Oh, you want to say that the test. Now, we talk about the test, we don't talk about the people cheated on the test, and the test was given to them, like the firefighters and the cops and all this stuff, and people had to sue because they knew they passed the test at a high score, but the ones that got the test going, going to tell you scored lower.
Well, that's not. Let me comment on
So
the
let's-
stand.
let me
Let me comment
finish
on
this.
the tests, and then I'm a very, very tiny comment. Then you can continue. But Ben
So I'm
Carson,
gonna explain to
you're
Mark.
saying Ben Carson, he's a great surgeon and all that.
Well,
I'll just
yes,
throw
yes,
this in.
yes,
It's we don't now. He's a little bit older. But affirmative action has been around a while. So
Well, he
it's a
came in on
shame. It's a shame that I look at Ben Carson and I think, you know what? How can I be sure that he is the best nurse?
He was the best. And the one that
How
fed
can
them
I be
peanut butter
sure?
so they would
How can
starve
I
to
be
death.
sure, Maze?
What they found the fathers. Who was that?
How can I be sure that Ben Carson is the best?
Well, you got to
when
do is look it
affirmative
up. It's
action
written down.
exists.
It's written down. You can look it up.
Right, but it's written down by people who believe in affirmative action, and they give
No, the
and they
medical
write
people
those
wrote that
things.
down. It's
They'll
not
write
people
those
that
things
do
down for
affirmative
anybody if they have the
Colin
right
Powell, he
skin
was the
color.
best at what he was doing.
What?
Colin Powell.
What about Colin Powell?
He was the best at what he was doing.
What makes you say that?
What made me say that?
Yeah.
Well, I guess he wouldn't have came through the ranks the way he did if he wouldn't have, until he told a lie for Bush them.
Uh-huh.
And he admitted that he did. He was good at his job that he did. So when you find people like Mark, he's upset because he cannot be like his founding fathers. And it's not going to happen. Because when in the 50s in the 50s, they were doing stuff like, you know, like aborting babies, giving black women hysterectomies, which now black women have to be nervous that she's going to have a baby. It depends on what doctor she go to.
Sounds terrible,
So,
Maze. Let me ask you a question.
Today, you don't even have a Caucasian doctor. You got more foreign doctors than you have them. So what is he talking about?
I don't know, but all those things sound terrible, Maze. I disagree with all those things. So I'm not even familiar with those, but they sound terrible, Maze. I'll say that.
You got
I disavow.
Over the world.
I don't
What
like
is he
those
talking
things.
about?
Anyways, I got a question for you.
What's that?
So did you know that affirmative action, when it was created, its purpose was that people were, that the fear was that if blacks, for example, were not given this affirmative action, that they would not succeed, they would remain, that criminality would increase, and they would just pretty much be stuck in McDonald's. Did you know
What would they succeed in? They was already doctors. They had black hospitals.
But did you know that that's what did you know that, and I just heard this, but did you know
I know you
that,
heard that stupid stuff from Mark.
Right. But did you
And
know that?
If they had their own schools, they had their own doctors, and they had everything, and then you take it away from them when you gave them affirmative action.
But did you know that? That's what they were. That's why they wanted
No,
to
that's
have
not
the
what it was
affirmative
about.
action.
It was fairness.
They believed
they were
that
paying bills
without
just
the
like
affirmative
everybody else.
action, that the people that needed it would not be able to succeed. Did you know that?
Excuse me. That's in his mind. The black people are not smart. He's the one that's not smart. IQ.
But what I'm getting
We
at
belong
is,
to the John Brooks Society, and they'll never think you can find a smart black man. Even
but
if
I'm
he got
talking
to do
about
heart
something
surgery
else.
on him.
But I'm talking about
My
something
niece
else.
is a heart surgeon.
Nice.
And I know she knows what she's doing.
Nice. I'm talking about something else.
You can tell by the patients that you get.
I'm
and
not
the ones
talking
you want
about
to
your
run.
niece. I'm talking
And
about
if
something
you look
else.
at the medical thing, you got doctors being high, you got doctors being drunk, you got doctors doing everything.
Huh?
Excuse me? And they don't look black.
So, anyways, I'm talking about something else. So
I'm talking about what Mark was saying.
Right, me too.
And when you find these other people,
No, I'm
they don't
talking
like
now. No, my turn. Affirmative.
Huh?
So, considering the purpose of affirmative action, what do you say now, 2025, looking back? What went wrong?
What went wrong? You have people like Mark that made stuff go wrong because they didn't want to. Just like when Obama became president, that's the problem. He wasn't a dumb person compared to what the things we looking at now. So if you don't make peace with the world and you got to walk around here and want to be white power, you're not going to get anywhere because the world is looking at you and the world is against you because of the things that you're doing to other people. Not black people, that you're doing to other people. So he got a problem, and he's crying and whining and about it, and there's nothing he can do about it. But live through it until he's gone, because the 50s is not coming back to be like his forefathers. And then when people want to talk
So
to
then
you,
why was it created then? If you're saying
why
he's
was laws
wrong,
created?
why was
Why did they
affirmative
create
action
laws?
created then? If he was wrong,
Excuse me?
if
Why
you're
did they
saying-
create the law so people
if
wouldn't
Mark
have
is
to
wrong that affirmative action was not, you're saying then why was it created? If it wasn't created to help black people out of their economic situation, then why was it created?
Because they took everything away from them. That's why.
So it was to give it back to them. Did they get it all back?
Yes. If like I say, if you go do some history, you'll understand that somebody that grew up back there, like they bombing churches and killing kids in churches and stuff like that. That was in their 50s, wasn't it?
What
and
about
he was
that?
around, and he talked about his friend in the book. So if there wasn't no laws, they would have got away, and a lot of them did get away.
Says you. Now
So
I don't
we
even know
want
what
to talk
you're
about
saying.
founding fathers. We go
Nah,
back there.
I don't even know what you're saying.
We're
now.
talking about today. We're not talking about then. We're talking about today.
I don't know what you're saying. So move on.
I can have a conversation on today in
What's
history.
your question or comment? What are you saying?
Why did black people have to go drink out? They had to go like to the colored fountain, had to go to the white fountain. You
Mhm.
go to the doctor, you had to go through the back door, and they had to go through the front door.
Mm-hmm.
But you were going to see the same person.
What's that have to do with people not being able to trust a doctor today simply because if they're
Because
wrong, they're thinking they got in because of something that has
They
nothing to
didn't
do
get
with
in
their
because
job?
of action.
Huh?
What?
No, what you?
It's just like you came into this country.
You're saying
And
I
you
came
was
in through
doing a job
affirmative
and you was-
action?
But somebody
But I'm
standing
not
in
a
your way.
doctor.
Huh?
But I'm not a doctor.
No, I'm not. Not only doctors, teachers, and everything. They fired all of the teachers when integration came.
I'm affirmative action talk show host, not affirmative action doctor.
It was something that was used, and people like Mark didn't like it because he wanted to stay in the same situation he did with that law. You hear him talking about the judges.
Maze, what's that have to do with what I'm talking about?
It does have a whole lot of things. What's wrong with those judges that doing their job?
No. The question is, what's wrong with making your racial identity.
It's not about my racial identity.
The question is, what's wrong with making people graduate medical school helped in some part by this affirmative action, either a lot or a little. Is there anything wrong with that?
And they had their own hospital. So if you take the hospital
No, that was a question. You're just talking now. I asked you a question, Maze.
Not that they wasn't
No,
wrong.
I asked you a question. You have to answer the question, okay?
I'm listening to your question.
Okay, the question was, is there anything wrong with allowing people to graduate from medical school through this affirmative action?
No, it's not.
Why not?
Because if you got a system that's not going to let you go through it, you got to get there some way. And when you get where you're going, and if you prove what you know what you're doing, what did that have to say? You never talk about the evidence.
Let's assume a couple of things.
Just like I used Colin Powell as an example. Then I used Obama as an example. What the harm did Obama bring to this country? Can you tell me anything about the hatred that they have for him?
No, you're talking about something else. You
didn't take nothing away from it.
You refuse to talk about what I'm talking about, and now you're going somewhere else.
You're still talking about the same thing.
No, I'm not going to answer you. You answer my question, or we're done.
I did answer your question.
No, we're not. We're still on. We're still on. Is there
You're
anything
still on
wrong about this affirmative action thing? You're like Obama. Why are you talking about Obama?
It opened the door for people to do the jobs that was already there. They were smart enough to do them, and you had people like Mark trying to stop them from getting through the door. That's what it did.
Okay, so let's assume there's people
when
like
they had
Mark.
The opportunity.
There she goes again. Let's assume that Let's assume people like Mark are in the way, right? That there's a system not letting these people graduate. Now, wouldn't you see that even in a situation like that, let's just assume that racism is not allowing people to become doctors. Is it?
They weren't allowing people to become doctors. They were not allowing them to work after they got their degree to be doctors because they were already doctors. That's where you got it confused. If they had their own hospitals.
Okay, Mace.
It's just like I'm going to use just an example. If you had your own
Last comment.
If you had your own car and somebody took it from you, but somebody else gave you a car, would you use it to get where you were going?
If say that again?
If you had a car and you lost your car and somebody gave you a car to use, but they didn't charge you for it, they just letting you use it. And then you drove the car and something was wrong with it and you fixed it up.
What are you
saying? It made it better than the person that let you borrow the car?
Uh-huh.
Did that make you dumb or did that make you smart?
It might make me a dummy.
Well, if you say so. But what I'm saying that Mark don't want us talking to you and James. The honorary black man don't want us talking to you and James because they don't like for you all to open up your brain and go learn on your own.
I like talking to you though, Maze.
I know, but they don't like it. When you find all,
don't listen to them, Maze. It's just
I'm not
us.
talking about that. When you find old Caucasians,
don't think about them, Maze. You're
been doing this for a long time.
You're not like them, Maze. Don't talk about. Don't
I know
even
I'm
talk
not.
about them, Maze.
I'm telling you what's wrong. They upset. They don't want you to talk to them.
Don't even think about them, Maze. It's just you and me.
I'm glad you and James take your own man and talk to who you want to.
All right, you have a nice day.
That's what I'm happy about. So Mark, get over it. Go back. You're not going to be like your founding fathers, and you're not going to be in the 50s. It's over. I don't care who in office. And Margaret Taylor Greene, she's not qualified for nothing but what you see her doing. Have a good one, Nick.
Have a nice day, Maze. You go. Read a whatever, Maze. Whatever, Maze. It's like, geez, sue me. Oh, I want the best doctor. Sue me. Should I need one? Jeez. Now where were we? We're done with that. We're done with all that. Look, 888-775-3773. Call me if you've got something on your mind. Appreciate the support and the super chats and all that. Okay. Appreciate everybody. Someone with the coffee's very big, very cool. Thank you so much. Now, where was I? We were talking about the Pope. That's right. The Pope. Marriage. He was asking people, young people, just I don't know, do this Christian marriage. Now, where was I? Okay. Where was I? Hold on, folks. 888-775-3773. Bada bing, where was I? Where is all my stuff? How about we start here? Let me open this up. How's this just for fun? I was saying this a while ago, and it's finally happening. Someone must have been listening. Because they're listening. Okay, they're listening to me. Okay, I was out here. I've kind of been saying this, okay? I've kind of been saying this about sports. And it's essentially what? I've been saying this about sports and... Hold on, let me just pull this up. And what I'd like to see. Because sometimes there's controversy about these people, right? Are they natty or not? They'll ask. Are you natty? Are you natural? Are you enhanced? Some say enhanced. Some may disagree with that word. It makes steroids sound too cool. Enhanced. What do you mean enhanced? More like cheating. I don't know. But yeah, it's cheating if you're like competing in a game and most aren't. Or at least that's the rules, even if everyone's trying to cheat. Shout out. It's kind of a dirty secret out there in certain physical competitions. In some cases, it's an open secret that people are enhanced, even though the rules are against that. So other competitions and leagues, there's some weightlifting competitions, etc. They're way more serious about testing, etc. and all that. But it's a bit of a controversial topic, and all that. Personally, I've been saying this for a while. I've been saying this for a long time. Please give us the steroid games, the steroid Olympics. Please. I want to see, you know what I mean? Like, I just want to see amazing things. Okay. I want to see a sub 9 100-meter dash. Okay. Hasn't been beaten since 2009. Usain Bolt. I want to see incredible things. Okay. I'm looking for the steroid Olympics. And I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing. The enhanced Olympics, the enhanced games. I want to see incredible things. So I've been calling this. Look, I've been calling for such a thing to exist, to come about, and it's finally here. It turns out they're listening. They are listening to the Anchor Baby. I'm telling you, I'm full of great ideas. I thought this was a news report. Hold on. That's just some person. But look, they have the enhanced games. You are looking at their website. We're reinventing sports with science. At Enhanced, we are pioneering a new era in athletic competition that embraces scientific advancements to push the boundaries of human performance. Yes! Finally! What was that? Why did this just scroll down? Advance to push the boundaries. We believe that the benefits of science and technology can be harnessed safely and should be celebrated in sports. Fantastic. Thank you. So performance enhancements, scientific and technological advancements can be safely applied to sport. Their use should be embraced and celebrated in elite competition. Okay? That's what this is about. Okay? And where was it? Where did I put this? I think there's even some athletes involved with the enhanced games that are exhibiting super physiological levels of gains and possibly, most likely, testosterone. You know, you'll need like a full blood work on that. But give me a sec while I pull it up. I want to see. You know what I'm saying, folks? Tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong. It's not like everyone competing has the same testosterone levels anyway. If there was a standard of testosterone level, that would be fair. Interesting commentary on the science. Look at this guy. Look, here he is. His name is James. His name is James Magnuson. They're saying he's unrecognizable after preparing for the enhanced games. I want you to look at what is allegedly a photo of James Magnuson in his pre-enhanced era. Allegedly, this is pre-enhanced James Magnuson, who will be swimming, I believe. He will be a swimmer of some sort. James Magnuson. Now look at James. Juiced. They're saying this is him. Prepared, enhanced, Australian James Magnuson looking massive for the enhanced games. They're saying unrecognizable. I have to say, quite beastly, truly beastly. I believe what we're looking, these giant growths, these growths that look like they're coming out of his pecs are, I believe, and I could be wrong, are in fact not growths. They're not in fact cancerous, tumorous growths denoting a health emergency. I believe those are just simply his lats. I believe those are just, in fact, his lats. His latissimus dorsi. So, it would be hilarious if they performed even worse. He Black. Look, this is early. It's for science, He Black. And it may, that's an interesting commentary. It's something about, I'd assume he's slower. You guys are just assuming. Okay, you haven't even seen him. You haven't seen the performance, okay? Yes, he has a side breast. No, those aren't growths. Those are just his lats. You can see the lat from the front. But where was I? Enhanced games, man. I'm telling you, I'm glad they're finally doing it. I've been saying it has to happen. But what else about this? They're reinventing sports science. Here's your leadership. Diverse? Are these diverse? Diverse leadership? I don't know. Not that diverse. Not that diverse. Anyways, what else about this? The enhanced games. I think it's a great idea. We'll see, though. Yeah, that would be funny, He Black, if it all turns out badly. You know, it turns out strength and performance is more of an operative thing as opposed to just growing huge muscles, right? Instead, you know, being anabolic in muscle building mode is its own thing, and then functional strength as you use it is another thing. That would be an interesting thing. That's why we need to know. That's why we need the enhanced games. We need to know. That's the last thing Native Americans saw before surrendering. Look, we need to know. We need to know. Are you growing in strength, or are you merely growing this muscle, which can grow in strength, but strength is its own thing? We need to know. We need to know. Because that could be its own sport, right? How anabolic can you be? The most anabolic individual on this planet. And that would that look like? Well, we'll find out. They're pushing the limits, clearly. How anabolic can one person be? Maybe we'll find out, right? How big can your muscles grow? It doesn't necessarily mean anything else. I don't know. Next will be the enhanced nanotech games. No, I'm saying that too. The enhanced games should include even like body modifications, robotic limbs, you know, prosthetics. I want to see it all. I want to see amazing things happen. If you can do it, if science and technology can cause it to happen, I want to see it happen. That event should not be shown to kids. It's degenerate. You might be right about that. Everything is fake. You might be more right than I'm comfortable in admitting within myself. Wow. What a mess. Obesity. Talking about the body here. You know, it's an expensive problem. There's someone going viral over there. Commentary on obesity and its immense costs. They put together the stats. They put together the information, and it's expensive. For all the unseen reasons. For all of the unseen reasons. Hold on, let me just pull it up. This person is going viral over this. But there's just all these unseen reasons about what obesity does to a nation. What obesity inflicts on the GDP of a nation. Terrible stuff. Poor GDP. But, you know, besides the healthcare costs described here in the graph, the direct healthcare costs, right? There's a direct cost. You could draw a line between someone getting obese, accruing a number of health problems that then falls on the healthcare system, right? The healthcare. There's all these unseen, and I'm sure you know this, but it was an interesting thread here. The unseen. What is the unseen costs of obesity? Have you ever heard of something called, what's it called? Presenteeism? Presenteeism. Presenteeism is when employees come to work despite being ill, injured, or otherwise not fully able to perform their duties, resulting in decreased productivity and potentially negative consequences. So there you go. Shout out to the fat employees, you know. But, you know, there's evidence, there's evidence and data to show in many cases, particularly obese people are just not working as well. They're just not working as hard. Okay, they're just there, but they're not working. What a cost. What a terrible cost. Immeasurable. What's the number? It's hard to even say. Hundreds of billions to over $1 trillion per year. I mean, that's just a claim by this individual. You know, this person says when you run the numbers, reducing obesity, having the government focus on reducing obesity would pay for itself. You know, I remember seeing like videos. Now, where was that? I remember seeing like older videos of, it might have even been Kennedy, but I've seen older videos like these old public service announcements, these PSAs, and it'll be like these government-sponsored videos on being a healthy citizen. Being a healthy citizen, working out, right? Being a healthy populace. What happened? What happened? Where was I? What was I talking about? Obesity here. I guess I was also, this was this whole obesity thread. This ad was here. Okay, this is why I found this somewhat funny. Just humorous. There was this ad for what is this? Essentially body shapers for men. A body shaper. Okay. You got a little spilling out here, a little spilling out over there. It's okay. Just get you this spandex kind of thingy. You probably don't look like this. You probably look like this. You definitely don't look like this guy. I don't know why he's wearing it. He doesn't need it. But you probably look like this guy. And yeah, we got a thing for you. You see these animations of globules. You see these globules of you see these yellow globules? Yeah, that's fat. That's you, buddy. But don't worry. Yeah, that's you, but you see this guy? Yeah, that's not you. Okay? You need this. You need this thing to basically squeeze you up like a sausage because you're fat. See this guy? Yeah, you're also this guy. You're not this guy either. Also, you see these guys with muscles? Yeah. Well, they didn't earn these with this product, but you know, we'll show you this guy anyways. You could pretend to be this guy. Just wear this. So put yourself in the sausage casing. Say goodbye to self-conscious and say hello to confidence with our revolutionary compression vest, specifically designed for men. Shop now. I guess I just found this humorous that this was an ad in that section, in that segment for obesity. What a public charge it is to be obese. Jeez. That's so terrible. Body positivity is expensive. Body positivity is an evil, expensive thing. I wonder what has killed more people, body positivity or the cutting of USAID? Bono, what do you say? I gotta say, I found the comments under this ad also quite interesting. It's full of men. Look, it's full of men saying, hey, this is ridiculous. Just do some push-ups. Yeah, it's literally, look, this is an ad, 1.5 million views, 1.5 million views. And in this ad, this ad directed to men, specifically designed for men, this revolutionary compression vest. I just found it funny. I mean, the comments are full of men saying, this is ridiculous. Just go to the gym. That's a effing girdle. Just do push-ups. Yo, whatever, put down the donut. This is so gay. Nothing a little spandex can't fix, LOL. Men are often developing enlarged breast tissue due to hormones given to animals in their food. Oh, wow. That's whatever. Oh, okay, geez, that's vulgar. Yeah, but sooner or later, you're going to have to take it off, and she's not going to be impressed. Maybe spend money on the gym instead. But your advertisement makes it look like it actually breaks up fat when all it does is compress your body like shapewear. Yeah. See, I wasn't the only one who saw that. See, I thought sorry, I keep showing you this terrible, these terrible physiques, whatever. I thought that too. I thought the ad gave this sort of impression that you're going to have a rock hard body just from wearing these compression things. See, I wasn't the only one who got that impression. So scams, but the fellas aren't falling for it. Isn't that kind of an interesting response from the fellas, if I may? They got their problems, I'm sure. They got their problems. Let's be real. But this is isn't this the male response? Where was I? This is the male response, right? This is the male reaction, right? Let me just hit the gym. This is a lie. Let me not lie to myself and others. Let me hit the gym. Honestly, this was supposed to be a segue. This was supposed to be a segue into a whole thing, but I don't think we got that kind of time. So let's just move on. Let's just move on, if I may, but it's just a little thing on obesity, how much of a public problem it is, actually. I mean, we could segue into this instead, considering we were talking about men a little bit, huh? Men, here's one for you. I'll leave this with you. A little bit of a controversial one. And it kind of fits, earlier Pope Leo had his thoughts on cohabitation, asking the public, hey, all you need is a Christian marriage. All you need is a Christian marriage. Well, here are some ladies who went viral some days ago because they too have their thoughts on men and marriage, and whatever. Here's the comments from Laura Ingraham. Okay, Laura Ingraham. She had Tommy Lahren on her show some days ago. I think, yeah, a few days ago. And this is caught like fire. Okay, on the internet, people are commenting on this because Tommy Lahren, they're talking about men in decline, and I'll just let you watch Tommy Lahren here talking with Laura Ingraham, on Fox, right? Conservative ladies. And, they're just commenting on the rise of stay-at-home sons. What sounds wrong? Let's watch.
It's a major problem. And, Speaker Johnson has been talking about those maybe deadbeat folks that are on Medicaid, and maybe some of those folks are the stay-at-home sons. We don't know. But I'll tell you this, leave it to Gen Z to rebrand laziness and social awkwardness as something cutesy, like a stay-at-home son. They did much the same thing with quiet quitting, where you can go to work and do less. And if you call it quiet quitting, it's somehow better. But Laura, I got to tell you, this is also a big problem when it comes to, I think, declining birth rates. People not getting married and having children, that's a big problem. They blame it on women. Well, look at what young women have to choose from. The pickings are slim. Yes, we might have a feminism problem in America, but it's the feminization of men. There are a lot of young women out there that want to get married. They want to have kids. They want to have stable families. But there are a lot of young men out there who want to live in mama's basement and order DoorDash. And therein lies a big part of the problem. It's a major problem.
Tommy going hard. Tommy going hard on the man. And I'm sure if you're a stay-at-home son ordering DoorDash, maybe you heard her and you're like mad or something. And it's like, okay, don't get mad. When someone's right about you, you don't get bitter, you get better. That being said, what are your thoughts, folks? Does she have her finger on the pulse here? Does she have her finger on the pulse here, or is she someone wrong? Some parts of what she's saying, I don't know. I can't. I don't have this bird's eye view of the entire world, but there's something that doesn't fit here, like this collection of thoughts she has about men. I mean, she's kind of had this commentary about men for a while, like just man up, don't be such a beta loser. It's just be a man, right? It's slim pickings out here for the women. I wonder what, I just want to know what she means. I'd like to know what she means. When she says slim pickings, is she talking about status and stuff like that? Most of the time people marry their education status, the people, this similar status, right? Similar what you grew up with, the similar social standings, the amount of money you make is what I'm trying to get at too. So is she saying, are women out earning men or something like that? Like there's maybe some commentary there, but I don't know if it's that. The drive, you're telling me the driver, and she didn't even say this, right? The driver of the lack of marriage is women not being able to find equals in that way, in social standing. And it's like, no, the people she's describing as slim pickings, the women looking at their slim pickings are the slim pickings too, right? Like we're all in the same boat. Stop pretending, right? So I was just thinking about that. So where was I? I mean, seriously, you look at Tommy, and I think to myself, and the Pope talking about Christian marriage. This marriage doesn't exist. I'm waiting to see it. Like, ask yourself, why aren't men marrying women? Why won't they do it? Well, why won't they do it? Honestly, I think the men and women are usually right about each other in some senses, usually. But I mean, Tommy, man, when you think to yourself, when you look something up like this, and I don't know how true this is, and you think to yourself, wow, 82 million American men are subscribed to OnlyFans, and that's about 50% of the total male population, that 90% of these men on OnlyFans are subscribed to married men and subscribe to OnlyFans. Do you just look at that and think to yourself, what's wrong with men? What is wrong with men? There's only something wrong with men. Geez, I'm lost here. I had a whole thing on this, but I've kind of lost. I'm looking at the time here. And I just can't believe the time has gone by so fast. What the? I don't have nearly enough time to get into this, right? But basically, that's the controversial clip. I'll let you smoke on it. Because I got this thing on this, okay? We don't nearly have enough time. I'll just let you smoke on it. But, she's saying there's slim pickings. And I'm sure that there's things that men can improve on. I'm sure a whole bunch. But anyways, we'll get into it tomorrow. How about that? All right, folks. Just, I guess, smoke on it. What is all this? Marriage, cohabitation. Why did Francis say it was okay? Is there any difference between a so-called Christian marriage and a cohabiting couple? I'd like to know. I think in general, I think it's supposed to be. I bet you God even ordained it to be that way. But we just have no clue what that is. We don't have any clue. And we're pretending. And then you got Tommy looking at the men like she knows too, but she doesn't. We're all kind of a diluted, paltry example of what a man should be and a woman should be. Let's start there, okay? And if you start there, women are full of wrongs here. They're just so full of they're so evil, man. They're so evil. When you look at what they want to vote for, it's abortion and stuff. When it's men, it's families. When you look at when they win the lottery, women exit families, men start them. Anyways, we definitely don't have enough time. This is just me giving you random women hate things. Hating on women. No, I didn't get a chance to fully speak on this segment so that I don't hate the women. Okay? I really don't. But I'll let you smoke on a bunch of these random things until tomorrow. Okay, folks? I hope you enjoyed the show. That's pretty much it from me. We'll be back tomorrow, Wednesday. Manhood Hour on the JLP show, the rest of the network. More stuff on all this. The controversy. Appreciate all the support, the super chatters, the coffees and all that, generous coffees. But that's it, all right, folks? I'll leave you with that. Smoke on what? Great question. Everything's fake. That's it, folks. We'll be back tomorrow for more American Anchor Baby. Let's see here. That's it. No more goodbyes. Take care. See you tomorrow.
The views, information, thoughts, and opinions expressed during this show are the individual's own and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of the JLP Network or Bond. Their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The material and information presented here is for general information purposes only. The JLP Network and Bond name and all forms and abbreviations are the property of its owner, and its use does not imply endorsement of or opposition to any specific organization, product, or service.